Hey everyone, it is Katie from Moonflower Moment. So I know I'm a few days late posting this, but I want to do a bit of a tarot practice update for December, as well as what I plan to continue in January. So my intentions for January, the decks that I want to use, and the books that I want to read. So last month was my first time ever creating some sort of intention video, and it really worked because going on YouTube and saying, hey, I'm going to use these decks kind of hold you accountable in a way. So I threw in some decks in this basket that I just want to develop deeper relationships with, and I think by coming on here and saying, hey YouTube, I'm going to use them, I might be held a little bit more accountable. So with that being said, my practice is still very flexible. It's not rigid at all. So if I'm finding that I'm not vibing with the deck, I have no problem putting it away and seeing if another one is calling to me. That's all part of it. But I think part of the fun of this is making the intentions. I think I said in my last video, and I'll say it here, I'm a Virgo rising, so making the plans is just as fun as actually doing the damn thing for me. So with that being said, I'm going to start with a little bit of a practice update because I don't think I've shared this on YouTube at all. But last month I did do Kelly Bear's Tarot Advent, and essentially the way that she structured that is that for days December 1st through December 24th, you pulled 3 cards, and 3 cards a day, and you set them aside. So you did not shuffle them back into the deck, and you use one deck the entire time. And then on Christmas, you would have a 6-card reading. So I decided that I was going to participate in that, but I actually watched Marlena Teresa's video where she had some envelopes set aside, and these are not pretty envelopes, they're just what I had on hand, and she did envelope style. So she sat down on December 1st, or I think maybe it was November 31st, and then pulled 3 cards up until the 24th, and then whatever 6 cards were left she stuffed in an envelope for the 25th. And I thought that was a really clever idea. I think that she kind of took this idea from Lisa Pepez, who took this idea from another person, and I like how YouTube just kind of exists in this community. But the point of the matter is, in terms of a tarot practice update, this system really worked for me so well that I want to continue it in January. I want to continue it in February. So essentially I like to sleep late. I sleep in. I think everyone says that. That's not too much of a confession. That's a pretty normal thing. And so in the morning I want to do my daily pulls, but sometimes I don't have time to. So it's nice to have these envelopes on hand with my daily pulls already pre-pulled. So I really enjoyed that process. So I want to show you the deck that I used in December for that. And Marlena Teresa actually had picked this one too. And this is my Enchanted Forest Tarot. So I had already kind of contemplated using this deck for Tarot Advent. And then I saw that Marlena Teresa was kind of on the fence about it too. She was kind of considering it. And I was like, you know what? I feel a lot of the qualms that she has with this deck, I also am feeling. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick it. And at the beginning of the year, in 2024, I listed this as one of my favorite decks of my collection, and I still really do like it, but I kind of fell out of touch with it. So it was great to come every morning and sit down and drink my coffee, and the cards were already pulled from this particular deck. Because I think that we all say we're going to use one deck for a month, right? But it's very hard to actually do that when you have a sizable collection. And so it was kind of nice for me to be forcibly committed to a deck because I had already stuffed the envelopes with them. And so I enjoyed the process, and I think the tenacity of that really was nice. The guidebook entries for this are a standard Llewellyn guidebook, so the entries are really long, and I find that the guidebook for this is pretty juicy. So it was cool to sit back, drink my coffee, and read the guidebook entries and just become friendly with this deck. So this was my deck that I used in December for the envelopes, but I'm not going to use it in January. I feel I've had enough time with this deck. It's going to go back away in my armoire, and we will see it again later. But that was just a little update because I don't think I've shared with TarotTube at all that I was doing Tarot Advent. I did it. I did the whole thing, but I don't think I shared it with y'all. So as far as the things that I am going to use for Tarot Advent, this is another deck that I stuffed in the envelope because I wanted to have a Tarot Oracle match. I did use this one in December, and this is the Divining Poets Oracle, the Lucille Clifton edition. So if you've been on my channel a lot, you know that I keep talking about this deck, and that's because this deck is fucking magic. I know that tarot inherently is a tool to help us access that, but I think that there are certain decks that do make us really believe in it. So this is my impromptu. This is a deck that makes me believe in tarot, divination, yada yada yada. So I had a stunning time with this deck. This was one of my envelope decks for last month, but I also used it, like, even though I had some of these cards stuffed in the envelopes, I still pulled cards just randomly. And it's because they hit me in the gut. Like, come home from the show, don't be the show. Okay. I mean, I pulled this card like right before I was about to like go out, and I was like, okay, be safe, come home, don't be the show. All right, don't get crazy. All right, I got it. Like, these messages just like hit me in the gut. Wake up, girl, you dreamin'. Okay, thank you, Lucille. Like, I needed to hear that. But then there were some other ones too that are just so beautiful. Take off your shoes, the ground you walk is holy. Like, holy shit, come on. So it's literally everything I've ever wanted in an Oracle deck. So we are gonna put this bad boy into the envelope because I am continuing that. And this is gonna be one of my envelope decks for January. As far as it goes, the tarot deck that I'm gonna pull for my envelope decks for January is going to be my Ink Intuition. So, I recently filmed a video. It's my part 2 of my deck collection video. I should have that posted like sometime soon, but I think this video is going to go up first. And I shared in that video kind of like a negative experience that I had while it wasn't while I was using this deck, but like I used this deck before the experience happened. And so even though I know like it's not the deck's fault, like the deck kind of forewarned me about the experience, I still have some kind of like residual negative feelings that are attached to this deck, but it's not the deck's fault. Like the deck is here to help me see what's coming because I was using it in like a forecasting capacity. So at the end of the day, it could have been this deck, it could have been another deck, it could have been, I don't know, my fucking intuition, like without a deck. Like, you know, at the end of the day, like it's not the deck's fault. So I'm going to stuff these bad boys into the envelope with my Lucille Clifton Divining Poets Oracle. And then that way I get to kind of rewrite my experiences with this deck. I just think in general, the envelope idea is like so smart for daily pulls because you get to like use decks that you never get to use. So this is going to be my other one that I use in December. And another reason that I picked it too is because it has a pretty paired back color palette. I like to use pip decks that are like white, especially during this time. It just reminds me of winter. I think winter white, it makes sense to me. Okay, so that was the kind of update on what I did last month, as well as like my envelope practice for this month. Another deck I am carrying over from December to January is going to be my Architect's Tarot. And I did do a very lengthy full impressions on this. If you want to check it out, I'll leave it in the description box below. But y'all, I'm still vibing this deck. Like, I think I said it in the video, and I've said it probably in my December decks list. Like, this is one of my favorite decks, and I've had it for like a month, but I don't think that this is going to be just a little like lust affair. Like, I really think we're having like full-blown marriage here. Like, this is a great deck, and it's so infinitely perfect for this time of year because I like a kind of clean, crisp kind of palette. To me, winter feels really kind of desolate and kind of scary at times. So I like to have a deck that is like crisp and clear that kind of helps pull me out of that, right? When you're having kind of a rough day, but you pull something beautiful like this. I mean, hello, it's the Empress. The Empress always makes us feel better, right? But at the end of the day, when you pull something with like such a like wide, large white border, I think it kind of cuts through the sadness and the darkness. And so I do sometimes use some darker decks during this time of year, but primarily I like to use like white decks. Like, give me this. And then we still have like these soft pastels. So it's like spring is coming. And like, yeah, I know like winter just started, but spring is coming, y'all. I'm sure some of y'all are fellow spring people too. Spring is coming, guys. So I am definitely going to use this for December. Oh, sorry, January. I used it in December. I'm gonna use it for January. And we have like a nice bling here. I show it every time I get it out. I love a nice gilded edge. Like, even if it chips, I don't care. It's still beautiful. So that's one of the ones that I'm carrying over. Another one that I'm carrying over, and this is going to be primarily because it's Capricorn season, is going to be my Wildwood Tarot. I use this deck a lot in January. It's when it gets used. I find myself not using it much other than January, but like it works for me. It really does. So I consider this to be like the ultimate Capricorn deck, right? Because Capricorn is an earth sign, but then also Capricorn is like very like steady and consistent and ambitious. And I feel like just by their nature of being Capricorns kind of encourage us to do better. And I think that this deck, especially the guidebook, is written in such a way that it forces us to look at what we're doing to the earth and to not reconcile. It doesn't want us to reconcile with it. It wants us to change it. And so, for example, there are some cards. Let me look and see. And here we go. We have the Six of Stones, which is Six of Pentacles, and then exploitation. And I think there's cards like this that really call on us just to hold ourselves accountable and be better to the earth. And like today I had an experience. I got to visit the national champion bald cypress tree, which is anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 years old. And sitting there underneath that tree, I posted about it in my community tab if you want to see what it looks like. I felt that we are nothing. And so it's kind of crazy that we take so much from the earth when we are literally fucking nothing in comparison to the age of the earth itself and the world's oldest ecosystems. Even the earth's like youngest ecosystem. Like we're literally nothing, guys. And so I feel like this deck and I are really having a moment right now because of that experience. It's greeny. There's a lot of snow. I don't think it'll snow in South Louisiana, but hell, it might. I probably shouldn't say that. It is going to get pretty cold next week. Hopefully it does not snow. I don't want the snow. But like seasonally, it's very appropriate. So I included that in my December decks list, and we are going to continue on with that. And like this girl, she's everything I want to be during these months. Like I want to be grounded. I want to feel the earth. Even though it's dying away, I still want to feel that connection. So I think those are the two, or rather the three that I'm pushing over. Let's see what's new. Here's one that I hope by saying on my channel, hey, I want to use this deck, I use it more. And that's going to be my Arthurian Tarot. I like this deck quite a bit. But when it comes down to it, I had a lot of new decks come in at once, and I feel like this one just fell to the wayside. So I definitely put it in my basket, and I made sure not to over clutter my basket this month so I could really take some time to appreciate her and to see her. I know it's a totally different period in history, but I am going to be reading Hamlet very soon. That's one of my goals for January, is to read Hamlet for the first time. So, I mean, I don't know, it's British, or rather English. I mean, I don't know. It's associated with the Isle. So, like, my brain went there. And yeah, I know that doesn't quite make sense, but like, just bear with me. My brain went there. So that's like a really like loose reason for choosing it. But another reason too is of course like these softer colors. Of course I say that and I get a vibrant one. Here we go, like this. This pastel kind of palette reminds me quite a bit of spring. So even though yes, we are in the dead of winter, I did acknowledge that. I pointed out the winter cards in the other deck. I am ready to see some of these pastels come into my life. And I think that winter is the perfect time for cuddling up with stories. So similar to the Enchanted Forest that shared the folklores, I think that this is the perfect opportunity for me to get into the guidebook, take some time, slow down, and see what this deck has to teach me. So that was my Arthurian Tarot. Also, great edges. You see, I love these. I don't even care if they chip. So beautiful. So because I mentioned that I'm going to be reading Hamlet, obviously, come on. Shakespeare Tarot, or rather it's Shakespeare Oracle, but it's a tarot, guys. It's a tarot. It's just not aptly named. So it's time for me to bring this out. I feel like every time I dig into a really juicy Shakespearean play, I need to have this deck. It's its buddy. It makes sense. This one's a much closer association than the last one. But it'll work. The guidebook for this one kind of intimidates me. I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty chunky. So let me see if I can show you. Here we go. So let me just open up to a card. We'll open up to the Wheel of Fortune. Okay. So we have like how it relates to the character. We have the role. We have that. It's a fair bit. And I consider myself to be pretty well read when it comes to Shakespeare. Here are the minors, it's just one page. But a lot of the plays that this deck mentions are plays that I've never read before. So I've never read King Henry. Don't know who Hermione is. Never read anything with Humphrey, Duke of Gloucester, unless I have and I don't remember. Ah, okay, I've read The Tempest. Okay, so we got to one. Haven't read Merchant of Venice. So you know what this is teaching me? Like, maybe I should just go read more Shakespeare. Because I like reading Shakespeare. I took a couple Shakespeare classes in college. I'm an English teacher. It makes sense. But it does kind of intimidate me because I'm like, oh, I think I kind of know something. I've taught Romeo and Juliet 100 times. I've read The Tempest. I've seen it performed. I've, you know, read several of the histories. But clearly I don't know as much as I think I do. So this deck is a challenge to go learn more. So that's what I'm going to see it, is that every time I pull out a card like this, all's well that ends well. Maybe this is the card that needs to sit on my altar, like, hey, go read me. It's kind of like my tangible to be read pile. That's what this deck is, a tangible to be read pile. But I know for certain that I'm reading Hamlet. I mean, I have to teach it this semester, so I'm going to read it. All right, so what else am I going to read in January? So I need to finish this bad boy. I started this, I think I was reading this maybe in like May or June. And I got that far, about 200 pages in. A nice little cute little bookmark I made. I don't have much left. I can do it. So Margaret Atwood, to me, her writing is very haunting and depressing and filled with all of the nuances of the world. And she's one of my favorite authors. But I want to finish Cat's Eye. And I remember when I was reading it before, I felt like Somnia was the best match. So actually what I did was I would highlight quotes that really seemed to resonate with me on a metaphoric level, because Atwood's writing is incredibly metaphoric, and that I would build spreads using Somnia. So I know that I enjoyed doing that over the summer, though I only got like 200 pages in. So I think that now is the time to bring back that practice. Once again, winter is very depressing to me. I'm coming to terms with it, y'all. I really am trying to come to terms with it, but I will never love it as much as the other seasons. And so I think that this deck, with its kind of haunting atmosphere, I mean, look at this. It almost seems like a perfect match right there. So I think I'm going to continue doing what I did before and going through the book and highlighting lines that really seem to resonate with me, and then matching those lines with Somnia. I think that this is a deck that teaches you more than just the storyline. So it's time to revisit this deck, especially because this talks about like girlhood and how sometimes our best friends can be our biggest bullies and how that stays with us for life. There's something about this deck that like speaks to the things that haunt us at our core for an extended period of time. So I think it's a good match. I mean, look at this. You see those guys? Look. See? I mean, even aesthetically, it looks good. So I'll be using Somnia with that. All right, and another one I'm going to use, and y'all probably think this is a real random basket this month, and that's because it is going to be my Medieval Oracle of the Beast. So when I am struggling to find the light with my Somnia Tarot and my Margaret Atwood books, because they are very dim and beautiful, like really beautiful. You know, I'm making them sound like they're like absolute torture to read. They are so beautiful to read that it actually hurts me to read them. Like every other page is just like a shock to the soul. I'm going to pull out my Medieval Oracle of the Beast for a little bit of levity. So I got this deck in early December, and I did use it quite a bit. I had this guy as an altar card for quite a little while. But these guys bring me a lot of joy. I think it'll pair nicely with my Shakespeare Oracle as well. Actually, I think I did pair those together in my Playing with Pairs with this deck, so I'll leave a link in the description box below. That might be why I put those in my basket together. Sorry if I'm a little tired today. Well, I'm not tired. You know, sorry for being tired. Sorry that I'm not making as much sense as usual today. There we go. But it's a happy little deck. It brings me a lot of joy. I feel like that's a good reason to use it. All right, next. And I think this will be the last thing that I show. So it'll be a shorter video this month. So this is like totally not in season, but I just got this deck in, so it's in my deck basket. I always try to use the deck even if it's like not in season for me when I get it for a few weeks, so I can like get a feel for it and kind of know what season I want it in and how I want to use it. And that's going to be my, ooh, what is it called? The Illuminated deck of Holy Souls. I forgot it for a second there. So I'm going to talk about, other than the fact like, hey, this is a new deck, I want to play with it, I'm going to talk about another reason that I'm pulling this. So when I sat underneath that cypress tree today that was, you know, 1,000, 1,500 years old, we were staying in a place or visiting a place that was named after a saint. And it was my father's hometown. And then I've started to notice too around me, because I live in a very deeply Catholic area, the names of a lot of saints. And while I think that the land exists separate from the people that have inhabited it, that of course the land itself doesn't even need a name by the people, I feel right now kind of a calling to work with like Spirit of Place, as well as kind of dive into the culture of my area a little bit deeper. And so I wanted to purchase a deck like overall that had that kind of history to it with the saints, being that Catholicism is so present in my area. So I think it's appropriate that it came in now as I'm feeling that calling to do that and to work with that kind of regional energy. So I'm going to match this deck with two different decks, and I'm so sorry, both of them are out of print. This one is a pre-order, but the two decks I'm going to show you that I'm matching with it are out of print, so I'm sorry. And like I said, I know this is totally out of season, but nah. You'll see why I want to match them together. This is Illusori. Here we go. I mean, you can kind of get past the borders, right? Like the borders are not matching, but other than that, this match is quite simpatico. So Illusori is the deck that I use to communicate with my house. It was the first deck that I bought when I moved into her. And my house is this weird, like funky kind of A-frame situation. Spiral staircase. She's definitely still stuck in the 70s. Definitely has a very 70s vibe, not renovated. And it just reminds me of the funkiness of Illusori. So this is my house deck. So I want to use her with my Saints deck, because once again, my house is in this region. I use my Illusori deck to work with the spirits of place in my house. I feel like it just makes sense. And the colors are like really spot on too. So this match excites me. So I'm going to put it in my basket, and I'm going to see if Illusori wants to be worked with in this way. I think because it is the spirits of place, Illusori is going to be fine with that. And I know that's some like radical fucking personification for me to say that. But let me tell you, when I tried to use Illusori to read for my friend a couple years ago, the reading fell so fucking flat. And I don't even know, like maybe it was because of me, maybe because of the energy that I brought into it, like, this doesn't feel right. But sometimes you do hold a deck in your hands and you're able to say, hey, this is not the right tool. And I feel like every time I've tried to use Illusori for things other than my house, what it was christened for, it hasn't really like wanted to work out. So this is kind of like my intention, is to see if Illusori is good with that. I'm going to pull like a spread to see. But if it's not, it's fine. And yeah, I know that's some woo shit, but you're on TarotTube, so it makes sense. We're all on TarotTube. Makes sense to have a little bit of woo here. All right, and I'll stop there. I love this card. This is one of my favorite cards in this deck. Okay, so that's one match that I want to pair with. The other one, I think I won't have a problem with at all, because this deck is just a general reader for me. It doesn't have a specific purpose. And this is going to be my JK Tarot. And honestly, we're going solely on vibes here. I mean, it's vibey, y'all. Oof. It makes my heart happy to see this match. I actually just went silent for a second there because I was looking at all of the colors. I'm such a color girl. I love like a good like saturated palette. And I think this works. So this is my other deck that I'm going to try to use with Holy Souls, just to give it a little bit of a play. So I might try to like create a practice around Holy Souls in general. Maybe that's why my deck basket is so slim this month, because I really just want to focus on building deeper relationships with the decks that I already have. I think in January, I'm probably not going to bring any new decks in. I don't have any intentions. My collection feels really complete. Like, I'm kind of like scared to say this number on Tarot 2, but hey, here we go. I just like hit like 100 decks like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So it just kind of feels right. I kind of want to like rejoice in that. And I know that's kind of crazy to like really hold on to a specific number, but for me, it feels like the right number. So I don't really feel a rush to bring anything in. So I'm just going to really love what is in my collection right now, continue my envelope practice, perhaps start a new one with Holy Souls, and see what happens. So this was JK Tarot with Holy Souls. And I do, if I didn't say it already, I do have a flip through of Holy Souls on my channel. So if you want to watch it, I'll leave it in the description box below. Okay, so I think those are my decks and my plans and my books. I think I got everything for January. So I'm really glad that I got the chance to come on here and do this. It was a wonderful day of hiking and just like spending quality time with my SO. And it's a good way to like end the day, is like capping off with a video. So I hope to see y'all next time. Thank y'all so much for being here, and I appreciate y'all.